The 2024 Major League Baseball season ended literally 17 seconds ago, and we already have a breaking trade to talk about. Jorge Soler, he's on the move yet again. We also have to break down the fact that the Cardinals, they're not releasing guys, but they're also not choosing to bring a couple pitchers back, and those guys could have a big impact with other teams in 2025. We also have some smaller trades to talk about, but I would be remiss if I didn't start with this. Now, take this quote with a grain of salt because it's not like it's been confirmed by the Dodgers themselves, but according to reporter Joel Sherman, the Dodgers basically thought the Yankees were a stupid team. Check this out. If you're not looking, please look. And if you're not paying attention, please pay attention to this quote. What the Dodgers told their players in scouting meetings was the Yankees were talent over fundamentals. Let me repeat that. Talent over fundamentals. That if you run the bases with purpose and aggression, the Yankees will self-inflict harm, and that was exposed by Betts, Edman, Freeman, etc. That the value was very high to put the ball in play to make the Yankees execute. We're talking about the New York Yankees, not your little league team down the street that you can expose because they're playing bad defense. And anyways, it goes on to say, they mentioned that the Yankees were not just the major's worst base running team by every metric, but the difference was vast on the field between the Yankees and the Padres, who the Dodgers beat in the NL Division Series, but were impressive in this area, talking about not just talent, but fundamentals, that the Padres were vastly better than the Yankees. They, again, talking about the Dodgers, were thrilled, operative word, thrilled at how short Yankees leads were at first base to potentially be less of a threat on pivots at second, where Gavin Lux does not excel. They said their metrics had the Yankees as the worst positioned outfield. They were amazed at how many times relay throws came skittering into the infield with no one taking charge, and how often Jazz Chisholm Jr., for example, was out of place or just standing still when a play was in action. If you're a Yankees fan reading that, you got to be looking at yourself, and the mirror image is probably a clown. Like, I cannot believe I gave all of my time this year to a team that doesn't rely on analytics as well as a team like the Dodgers do, where they position well, they have guys in the spot that they're supposed to be almost at all times. They take advantage of other teams' miscues, and they don't make miscues themselves. The Dodgers literally said out loud, according to this quote from Joel Sherman, again, take this with a grain of salt. It's not like the Dodgers PR team put this out, but in a nutshell, the Dodgers basically saw a little league team on the other side of the diamond, and that's why they were able to complete a gentleman sweep. They could punt a game and quite literally still win the series 4-1. Now, it wasn't as cut and dry as that. The Yankees did put up a fight. You could make the argument that they should have won game number 1. They maybe should have won game number 5. But despite the fact that the Yankees are ultra talented on paper, the fundamentals were completely lacking, and whether that's Aaron Boone's fault, whether that's the players' fault for simply not doing what Aaron Boone and the staff has instructed, or maybe it's the organization's fault for not relying on analytics and simply saying they got talent. Stop romanticizing what they did years ago. The Yankees are a organization ran off nostalgia, and the 27 chips, it's not the same anymore. I'm sorry to say it, but Yankees fans will tell you it's not the same. And their standards are not going to change just because the Yankees aren't going to change. So now that we got that out the way, let me talk about these two small trades before we get into where Jorge Soler is going. Daz Cameron, he is going to the Orioles in exchange for cash. It is not a player-for-player trade. Now, Daz does have all of the tools in the world, but of course, with that, he has awful strikeout issues, and he doesn't get on base a lot with the walk. He's going to be a platoon bat because if you look at his stats last year, he had a near 130 OPS plus versus lefties, and again, he's extremely talented when it comes to raw talent, and he should be because he's the son of the former All-Star and 3-time Gold Glove winner Mike Cameron, so it makes sense that he's just an absolute athlete on the diamond, and he's going to be a platoon bat 100%. This name is going to be a blast from the past. Scott Kingery, the Jetpack, is no longer a Philly. He has been shipped to the Angels. Same thing as Daz Cameron. It is not a player-for-player trade. It is for cash. Now, I know you haven't heard that name in quite some time, but in 2019, Scott Kingery had 34 doubles, 19 home runs, 15 stolen bases, and not even a full season of games. He looked like a star in the making, but unfortunately, the strikeout issue caused him to fizzle out as fast as he rose and skyrocketed. But last year, he did have 25 home runs and 25 stolen bases in AAA for the Phillies, and they're just praying, and when I say they, the Angels are just praying that they can squeeze the last bits of juices out somehow and maybe pull a Yankees with Matt Carpenter, but the Jetpack era in Philly is officially over. Staying with the Angels, they also picked up slugger Jorge Soler. Now, for some context, Jorge Soler, he's going to be 33 years old, and he's a free agent after the 2026 season, so he's going to be with the Halos, at least in terms of contract years next season and 2026, unless they trade him if they suck again in the first half of next year. He had a down year, but still had 34 doubles, 21 home runs, and a 121 OPS plus. That's how good Jorge Soler is offensively. His down season is a 121 OPS plus and 20 plus home runs. So the Angels, they want protection from Mike Trout, and last year we saw 4 Angels hitters have 20 plus home runs, which was second in baseball behind the Arizona Diamondbacks, who had 5. So if you take those 4 Angels hitters with 20 plus home runs, you add in a healthy Mike Trout and a healthy Jorge Soler, on paper you could have 6 guys who could hit 20 plus home runs, which again, we just brought up the fact that the Diamondbacks had 5. That would have led Major League Baseball. And honestly, it could be more in 2025. No, like actually more. I'm talking about Christian Moore, who I actually think could be special. He was their first round draft pick from this year. He could be 7 hitters, and maybe Anthony Rendon finds the fountain of youth. It's not likely, but once upon a time, he hit 20 plus home runs in a season, 5 separate seasons. But the caveat to that is he has 22 home runs total combined over the last 5 seasons, but maybe he's the 8th hitter to go 20 plus home runs. It's not likely. Again, bear with me. I'm trying to play some narrative ball. None of it really matters though if Reed Detmers does not step up in the rotation, and if the Angels don't get a Blake Snell or a Corbin Burns or a Max Fried. If they run the same rotation and rely on Jose Soriano to be even average like he was this past season, those are some high hopes, and if you're an Angels fan, you're not content with that. Now, who did the Braves get in return for Jorge Soler? They are getting Griffin Canning, who honestly does have one of the better changeups in all of Major League Baseball, but with that being said, he is still a massive project in the making. He has to find a way to develop a sinker, a fastball with some movement, and not just that, he has to also hone that curveball, because his curveball and fastball has been getting absolutely torched for going on, what, like 4 or 5 seasons now. Now, Griffin has shown flashes of being actually pretty good. In 2023 to end his season, he had a 3.7 ERA, which is pretty good, and 114 strikeouts his final 97 innings again of 2023. Those are pretty good numbers for a 4 or 5 starter. I don't know if the Braves are going to keep him in the rotation or they're going to turn him into a long reliever or someone who is just a specialist out the pen that can really hone in on that changeup. Maybe he becomes Tommy Kahnle 2.0, who throws like 40, 50, 60 plus changeups in a row and saves the fastball for the random, like his changeup is actually the fastball, because the changeup is the main primary pitch, and when you change it up from the changeup, it's a what does that mean? So if your primary is a changeup and then you go to a fastball, isn't the fastball the changeup because you're changing things up? Anyway, sorry. Obviously, we saw what they did with Ronaldo Lopez. Chris Sale had his maybe best season ever. He's probably going to win a Cy Young, and honestly, this is a decent little trade for both teams. Both teams might come out with the W. Moving on over to the Cardinals. So the trades are over with, and now we have to talk about some options that were declined on Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, and Keenan Middleton. So Lance Lynn, he's going to be 38 next year. He is 7 wins away from 150 for his career. And by the way, he already has more than 2,000 strikeouts, so he doesn't have to worry about that. Last season, he had a 3.8 ERA, but I do want to notate the fact that over his final 5 starts, maybe take this with a grain of salt because the Cardinals were basically out of it, but he had a 1.6 ERA over his final 5 starts, and he held opponents to a 199 batting average versus his fastball. He really has to find a way to develop a cutter. Come on down to Cleveland. Look at what they did with Ben Lively, Matthew Boyd. Imagine if Emmanuel Clase or Ben Lively were able to work with Lance Lynn and give him the secrets to a cutter. That would be a lot of fun. Now, again, the Cardinals also did not pick up the option on Kyle Gibson. He's going to be 37 years old. He had a 4.2 ERA last season, which isn't the best, but he did have 13 starts of going 6+ innings with 3 earned runs or fewer, so he is incredibly hit or miss. Like, he can be really good sometimes, and then he can be one of the worst pitchers. He reminds me a lot of Griffin Canning, where they both have some decent stuff, but they go through stretches of being some of the worst starters in all of baseball. Keenan Middleton, he was insane in the second half with the Yankees to end 2023. He has elite, and I'm going to say elite squared, like elite velocity, strikeout stuff, chase rates, but he does have a walk issue naturally. When you throw that hard and you get that many guys to whiff, usually those pitches are outside the zone, so if they're not chasing, you're going to walk a lot of guys. He did miss all of 2024 with forearm issues, so let me know in the comments, would you want your favorite team to pick up a Lance Lynn or a Kyle Gibson just to eat innings? Would you want a Keenan Middleton? Let me know.